Welcome to another episode of Flood Facts, Myths, and Monsters. We are recording from our coastal-wide studios in Vero Beach, and I'd like to introduce you to our host of Flood Facts, Myths, and Monsters, Denise Boning.
Welcome to another episode of Flood Facts, Myths, and Monsters. If you're new here and you like this episode, you want to hear more, just hit the subscribe button below. Have any comments, questions, or you want to hear different content, also let me know. Today we are here and I have the honor to talk to Paul Thomas from the city of Fort Pierce. And I have to say, my kids went to school in Fort Pierce. And to this day, when they come home, they never go out in Vero Beach. They go to Fort Pierce. And Fort Pierce has changed a lot, and it's gotten really nice. I mean, there are some phenomenal restaurants for those of you who like to go there. I can tell you some good pointers, good hints. But more importantly, we're here today with Paul. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get in that position as building official and all this wonderful career path that you have been on?
Wow. So I'm not a native of Fort Pierce. My family moved to Fort Pierce in 1974. And so I really call that the beginning for me, because I went to kindergarten and my entire, cognitive life really is in Fort Pierce. So I'm as close to a native as you can be. When I was 19, I moved to New York, and I wanted to be a missionary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted to be a missionary. And so I had an opportunity to volunteer for a not-for-profit, for an organization that trained missionaries. I never had that opportunity, but I volunteered for 18 years. So what I didn't make in revenue, I really gained in a lot of different experiences. So I'm a licensed cheesemaker, and I'm a licensed dry cleaner, and I've worked years in construction and everything in between. And so every time I see an episode of Dirty Jobs, I can say I did that.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Slaughterhouse, you name it.
My Lord.
I've had my arm this far up cows, pulling calves, and the whole nine. So I've lived a couple of different lives in my short lifetime. But it was my construction experience that really got me involved with the government. So I was in New York for about 18 years, was married, and then my parents, they needed assistance in care. So my wife and I moved back to try to assist them with caregiving.
Yeah.
And when we did move back, I was able to actually start working for the city, and I was able to get licensed as an inspector and started in the building department. But my experience really was just more on the construction side.
Gotcha.
I really didn't have any experience with floodplain administration or even a basic understanding of it. And so that's how I became exposed to that. And I can remember vividly, we're going over rules. Well, here's a scenario and here's the problem, and these individuals have to overcome this. And I'm like, this is stupid. This is in the way. And here I am in the building department trying to advocate for the homeowner because this is in the way. It should be so simple.
Yeah.
Until I studied to be a CFM. And then that was the moment I got my flood brain. The moment that it all started to make sense.
I love it.
And it was so hilarious because shortly thereafter, I came back to the office and I was talking to my boss, who's the building official, floodplain administrator, and another CFM in the office, and they were just laughing at me because they're like, "Look, he finally gets it, right?" Because now all of a sudden, instead of trying to support, I'm like supporting the rules. This is why it's important, and like you finally get it.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
There was an aha moment when it came to floodplain administration for me that I really appreciate, and being a coastal city.
That's right.
It's very, very important to really understand.
Yeah.
So once I became a CFM, later on, I was able to acquire the coastal inspector's license.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not only a building inspector and plan reviewer, but I have the coastal inspector's license,
Gotcha.
the CFM, as well as the building official certification for the city. I serve as the building official.
That's very interesting. Now, note for anybody who's listening, the term floodplain is a patented word by Paul Thomas, so nobody can copy that. So just remember that. Paul came up with that, it's his.
I hope the check's in the mail.
That's right.
Hi, my name is Steve Boning, president of Coastal Waterways. For over 15 years, our firm has provided engineering, floodplain management, and resiliency services within a coastal and marine environment. Our services include natural and hardened shoreline stabilization and restoration, dredging and marine structure engineering and permitting, community vulnerability assessments, and GIS analysis and numerical modeling. We are proud to sponsor Flood, Facts, Myths, and Monsters. Now let's get back to the show.
So, as a CFM, you've obviously been to many flood FFMA conferences, Floodplain Managers Association conferences. I have not had enough coffee this morning, so you have to excuse my brain. It cannot keep up with my mouth. So, you have been to a number of FFMA conferences. And most recently, at the last conference, you have been voted in as our new Region 4 director. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You took my spot, which is great. I'm glad because I was rooting for it. I said, I want somebody in Region 4 who is not in Miami or Fort Lauderdale and South. I said, we need somebody up here. And I'm like, Paul, you got to do it. So I'm glad you did. So from the conferences you've attended, which one is your most memorable, or what is your biggest takeaway from any of them that you have attended?
Well, there are two that kind of stick out in my mind.
Yeah.
The first conference that I went to was just an absolute eye-opener, right? That, wow, there's this education and there's this group of people that are involved in this. And, you know, because when you're studying in your office and in your city, you have just a very small pool of people.
Sure.
And then you go to a conference and everybody's on the same page and you can network and talk to people about challenges that they've faced in their communities. And so just kind of mind blown the first conference that I went to. But my experience really is on the construction side.
Yeah.
And so I think it was after, I don't think it was Hurricane Maria. And I know we've had many discussions, but Hurricane Maria started the Category 5 discussion. And then subsequent to that, there was Hurricane Michael. So Mexico Beach is a primary example.
Sure.
And then there was another one that I can't remember the name, but it affected the Keys.
Okay.
And it might have been Michael as it zigzagged through. It could have been. But what I really appreciated, and I look forward to it every year, is that when there is a severe event and a true disaster, that every year at the conference, they sit down and say, here's what we learned. Yeah. Here's how your community can protect itself. Here's what you can do on the administrative level, in the building department to interface with FEMA. How do you get help? Yes. How do you get assistance, mutual aid?
Yeah.
You know, just really the nuts and bolts of this is what it's like after a Category 5 event.
Yeah.
So you really need to be prepared. Something as simple as what I learned this year, because I really pick different points. But this year when they were talking about St. August, well, no, it was the West Coast that had the severe catastrophes.
Yes.
Listen, you know, if you have electronic devices, you may not have the internet to be able to utilize them.
Yeah.
So download your apps and make sure that they're there and available for use, even if you don't. I mean, just very simple understandings go a tremendous way when you're in the situation. So that's what every year I really, really look forward to that particular aspect of those of the conferences.
No, that's true, and I'm actually looking forward to the next conference because I'm hoping that we will get more information on, in this case, the West Coast, where we know they're facing some retrogrades on their CRS program. Is how did that happen? I mean, some of those communities are Class 5 communities. How did that happen that they got retrograded? What is it that they didn't do or did do that we can learn from it so that it doesn't happen to us? Because it's definitely a shock to everybody. And I'm sure I feel bad for the CRS coordinators in there because they're probably not happy. But it's a great learning experience for us. So I think you're right. That is one of the biggest takeaways from the conferences that we can always have. What about funny moments? Have you ever had any like fun things that occurred at a conference? Some people say it was karaoke. Some of them were Link Ogle's beach balls that went through the conference room, or when him walking around in the guitar trying to get everybody in.
Yeah, I think making the concept of here, let's make songs up and let's let's get everybody involved that's a hoot. It's hilarious. It's just so hilarious.
Yeah. No, I think that's also my favorite.
And I think it's honestly, it's fair to say, because, you know, since I wear so many different hats, I'm exposed to a lot of different conferences and a lot of different training. But I really think that FFMA really stands out. The conference that they put on every year is the one I look forward to the most.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, really.
Oh, that's really good. I'm glad.
I don't want the building officials to hear that and be disappointed, but FFMA is really, very succinct. The information is very pointed and very appreciated.
That's true, and that's the thing. I mean, FFMA, the conferences are geared towards floodplain management and building officials and, community personnel who are involved in that and who need to know that. And this is what we do, and this is what we teach. So when we make a Hollywood movie out of the FFMA, what actor should we hire to play you?
I'm torn between Denzel and Jamie Foxx,
right?
Oh,
yeah. Jamie Foxx is funny.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm probably the funniest guy at the conference, even though I don't, because I'm just...
No, you're definitely known for your funny analogies, and they're always very pointed. So I think Jamie Foxx is it. That's it. Hired. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I'm sure I will see you at the next conference and hopefully at some Region 4 outreach project or the next CRS users group meeting or anything like that. And thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having me.